Can't decide and torn between a romantic, comedy, action, or an indie film to watch for the weekend? Well. Golden State Media Concepts Movie Podcast is your ultimate guide to the latest movies. Join us as we dissect the latest on the blockbusters. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Movie Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the GSMC Movie Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Heidi, and I am joined by the beautiful Arianne.
Hi, everyone. Today
we are talking about a big blockbuster series. We are talking about Fantastic Beasts.
Yes.
We are going to be talking about the one that is currently in theaters, which is Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald, and that is the second one in the Fantastic Beasts series.
Right.
The first one, which we will also be talking about, is Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. So, as I mentioned, Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald is in theaters right now, 2018. Arianne, do you like Harry Potter?
I do. I love Harry Potter. For Thanksgiving, we had like a whole Harry Potter marathon. So I like the story. I like how it can relate to like young kids and even like adults can get involved with it because it tells like a backstory. And I don't know, I kind of like the what are they called? The spells and stuff like that. And my daughter's teacher, in fact, excuse me, my daughter's teacher is a huge Harry Potter fan. Like, she has pictures of herself in London at the place where they go through the wall in 9 3/4.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they have something on the wall there, and she is like a fanatic. But I do like Harry Potter. And these two movies were interesting.
Yeah. Have you read the Harry Potter books?
No.
Okay.
Those books, when I was a kid, then those books came out. Well, I think they came out when I was like in high school, but I did not like to read back then. Like, I don't think I really started enjoying reading, probably around 8 or 9 years ago. And when I was in high school, I was like, I am not reading those. They are way too thick, and I don't even like to read. So no,
That's actually interesting you point that out, because I really like Harry Potter. And I think the reason I do is because the Harry Potter series, the books, are what got me into reading.
So you like the books?
I do. I've read all the books. And I feel like that's what made me like to read.
Okay.
Basically. I mean, I felt peer pressure as a child because everyone was reading Harry Potter.
Right.
And I was like, well, I guess I have to. I have to learn how to read for this or whatever.
You always have that book that kind of just sucks you in, because that's how it worked for me. There's a series that I started reading, and that's when I was like, oh my gosh, I really like to read.
Right.
But
okay.
Not Harry Potter. I can't say the name of it.
But I feel like there are a lot of people, kind of similar to us, who had a reading experience like that.
Yeah.
And I think probably for some people, there might be like me, who started to get into it because of Harry Potter.
Right.
And so if you're familiar with Harry Potter, there are, like 7 books, 8 movies, and they go all the way up to, they split the last book, the 7th book, into 2 movies, which I think was a wise choice.
Right.
And so this series, Fantastic Beasts, is based off of a textbook which appears in the Harry Potter series.
Right.
Which is called Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. And I believe you can actually read this book. J.K. Rowling wrote it as if written, like she actually did some of the illustrations herself, I believe.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be the textbook that Harry Potter reads. And I haven't read that book.
No, I haven't either.
I've only read the main Harry Potters. I haven't read any of like the other spin-offs, like what is it, like The Lost Child or something?
Yeah, I heard about that one, but I thought it was just started like as a play.
It is a play. It's written like a screenplay.
Okay.
Also, I'm sorry if it's not called The Lost Child. It's something Child.
Yeah.
But that did become a play, and I haven't read that. So I just read
The Cursed Child.
Oh,
Sorry.
The Cursed Child. Yes.
It just hit me.
No, that was perfect. Yes, The Cursed Child. Before Harry Potter fans just destroy me.
That...
Yes. The Cursed Child. They are. This is very serious. So I have not read the Fantastic Beasts series, but as I said, it is like a textbook that is in the Harry Potter series, and it is about magical creatures. And it is basically it is written by Newt Scamander, and it's like, the first one is like his adventures. It's kind of like him finishing the book that will become the textbook.
Right.
But I want to start, that's like a little bit of background. I want to start by talking about the most recent film, which is the Crimes of Grindelwald. So as I said, this is in theaters right now, 2018. It is directed by David Yates, who also directs the first one.
And he also directs, I think, the last 4 Harry Potters.
He does the final 4 Harry Potter movies. Which is kind of like when they get darker. Just like in terms of like lighting, and even like story is just darker. So he's a veteran to the Harry Potter series, and it is actually the screenplay is written by J.K. Rowling. And I thought maybe it was like J.K. Rowling and others, but it's just her.
Yeah.
She is the screenwriter.
Right. In fact, I think I even read that they approached her to write the screenplays for the first Fantastic Beasts and the second one.
Oh, because they asked her to do it.
Yeah. They wanted her, which I feel like she can write a story, but writing a screenplay is different. I mean, I know they want her to have her ideas, but that's what I read in an article. Anyway.
Yeah, I think we'll get to that because I read a lot of things regarding that element of these films. And there are also some actors you may recognize. I feel like in the Harry Potter series, it was kind of like back when they were being filmed, it was like if you were a British actor that was well known, you were in Harry Potter.
Oh yeah.
I feel like nowadays that's like Game of Thrones, where if you're like a British actor that people know of, you might be in Game of Thrones or get your career started in that series. That's kind of like what Harry Potter was. Like a lot of well-known British actors were in Harry Potter.
Oh, yeah.
And so we go into Fantastic Beasts, and a lot of these actors you may know.
Yeah.
I feel like most notably would be Mr. Johnny Depp, who plays Grindelwald, who's like the villain in this film. Also, Newt Scamander is played by Eddie Redmayne. Zoe Kravitz plays Lita Lestrange. Ezra Miller plays Credence Barebone. Catherine Waterston plays Tina. Alison Sudol plays Queenie, and Jude Law plays Dumbledore.
Yeah, he does.
He does. And also he plays a younger Dumbledore. So if you're thinking older Dumbledore with beard and robes, it's Jude Law. It's not that version.
Yeah.
It's the younger version.
Right.
And if you're, this takes place in the 20s.
Yes.
And if you're wondering about time, just know that wizards can live for a long period of time.
Very long time, yeah. And I think in fact, in even one of the Harry Potters, when they're like, how old is Dumbledore?
Yeah.
And they're like, I don't know, like 150, 200 years old, something like that.
I think it's because they get like his magical trading card or something, and it like says it on there. But he's like 115, 116 when he dies.
Very old.
So that's why the character Dumbledore is still in this and in the other Harry Potters, which are more like modern times.
Yeah.
So basically, this movie goes from the first film. It's like a continuation of that story. And there is an effort to thwart Grindelwald's plans. Grindelwald wants to raise a bunch of pureblood wizards to rule over all non-magical beings. And then Albus Dumbledore wants to go against this plan, and he enlists his former student, who is Newt Scamander, and he wants him to go after Grindelwald, even though at the time I would say Newt is not fully aware of all the dangers that will occur.
Hence the typical Dumbledore.
Right, exactly. He's so like casual about everything. Yeah. He's so convincing. And a lot of this story brings all the other characters together. There are some subplots, I would say, that all come together, and everyone's friendships get tested, I really feel. Yeah. Loyalties get tested. There are
alliances and stuff like that, too.
Yeah, alliances. Because Grindelwald is really a dividing character.
Right.
And I feel like you'll recognize this from the Harry Potter series of the idea of like pureblood wizards.
Yeah.
That kind of always comes up in these series.
Yeah, there's always one.
Yeah, there's always someone who just thinks they're better than everyone else.
It's like, we're not those, so calm
down. So Grindelwald wants to convince the pureblood wizards to rule over non-magical beings. You know from Harry Potter that they are called Muggles, but in America they're called No-Maj, which is no magic. Yeah. And so you also will recognize another character from the first Fantastic Beasts series, Credence Barebone, and Newt is to go after Credence and to not let Grindelwald use Credence to his own devices.
Right.
Right.
And I feel like there's an underlying there too, because Grindelwald it doesn't really specifically say what beef he has with Dumbledore, because I feel like it's deeper than, oh, you just want the pure bloods to rule and you don't. You want everybody to be happy. Like,
right.
You know what I mean? Because then, not to give a whole lot away, but there's a situation where they show why they're having other people do their dirty work.
Right.
So.
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of times in Harry Potter, Dumbledore will he enlists Harry Potter to do things for him.
Yeah.
And so you kind of think it's like that, what's going on here with Newt, where Dumbledore asks Newt to do this task. And then you kind of learn why he asked that.
Exactly.
As opposed to just someone like pulling the puppet strings.
Right, right. And
because
then
he seems like that.
Yeah, yeah. Dumbledore definitely does. And then just to kind of like piece all the puzzle together, but then you actually figure out, it tells you why, like you figure it out.
Right.
Why the situation is.
Right, yeah. And I think they do a good job of doing that, I feel like. Because it's not... I don't want to give too much away.
Right,
I feel like if you know things about Harry Potter, you know things about Dumbledore.
Right, right.
And some of his relationships and how that connects to this.
Exactly. And even
his connection with Grindelwald.
Yeah, right, right. And there was a lot of talk on that from before, but even like how he conducts himself too, because I remember in the last Harry Potter, I think it was like one of part 7. I can't remember if it was 1 or 2, but the lady was talking to Harry at like the wedding, and and she's like, "Did you even know the man?" And there was like so much that he was just like, "Wait, what?" Like it doesn't matter.
He lived for 100 years.
Exactly. And then in this one, you're like, yeah, you kind of see that part of it.
Yeah.
So and then you kind of get why he does certain things.
Right. You learn more about Dumbledore's like his past, his family, and I would say I find that very intriguing, mostly because Dumbledore is already an existing Harry Potter character,
right?
And so I feel like it's intriguing to learn about him.
Oh yeah.
Grindelwald, you don't learn as much about.
Right.
He's definitely more of a mysterious villain.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, you learn why things are like between him and how him and Dumbledore, like what the situation is somewhat there, but it doesn't really delve deep into it, and it kind of just leaves you hanging too.
Yeah, it really does.
It's like, okay, so when does part 3 come out?
Right, exactly. And I think we'll take a quick break, and then we'll come back and keep talking about Fantastic Beasts.
Want to know the latest and hottest music hitting the airwaves? Don't be left out. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Music Podcast. Keith keeps you on the loop with everything you need to know from pop, rock, hip-hop, and the top 40. And we'll throw in news of your favorite artists, concert and tour dates, and so much more. Listen no further, because this is the gold standard in music podcast.
Welcome back to the movie podcast. We are continuing to talk about the Fantastic Beasts series, which has 2 movies so far. I want to continue talking about Grindelwald. We've talked a little bit about how this movie you learn more about Dumbledore and his past and his life. Which, you know, obviously it takes place earlier in his life than when you see him in the Harry Potter films, so you're learning more about him.
Yeah.
But with Grindelwald, I feel like he's a character that is mysterious. You don't really learn a lot about his past.
Right.
And I'm sure because there will definitely be more films in this series.
I hope so.
I mean, there
There
has
better
to be.
Exactly.
There has to be. I'm sure we will learn more about him, but I will say in this film, and definitely more noticeable in this than the first film, Grindelwald is really kind of just like this villain, but I would say like he's 2-dimensional.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I'm getting a lot of I'm not getting a lot of information about him.
Yeah, he's just like, all you know is he's the villain and he's the bad guy, and stay away.
Right, and he just wants to make pureblood wizards rule over muggles, basically.
Yeah, and it's different because, like, in Harry Potter, with the villain being Voldemort, you get the backstory. So it's like, oh, yeah, okay, you are crazy, and then we see why you're doing these things. With Grindelwald, it's just...
Right, you get no background.
Nothing.
Right, and I think I have definitely read that there are a lot of complaints about this film being that, like, Grindelwald is just like a generic villain. He's not very interesting because they don't give him much of a background. There's not really a motivation that you're seeing as why he wants pureblood wizards to rule. As you're saying, with Voldemort or He Who Shall Not Be Named, they definitely go into his story.
Right.
But I don't get that with Grindelwald. Again, I'm sure that will come out.
I feel like it will, because that's J.K. Rowling's style, you know? Like, even in the first 2 Harry Potters, you kind of got to watch the first one to understand the rest, even though it's, like, a little slow and it is what it is. And then you get deeper into the story, like, in part 2 and then 3. And I feel like that's her style, so... I really, really hope that there's a part that... So, because it does give you a little bit about Grindelwald when Dumbledore, and it shows certain things, so you get a little bit.
Right. I agree. And I think if you go in knowing Harry Potter, you will know a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, like, some of his, like, legend.
Right.
But again, I don't feel like it's enough to really flesh him out as a villain.
Yeah.
And Johnny Depp plays him.
Yeah.
And I will say I watched this film and I was like, oh, Johnny Depp, he's back. He's out on screen again and not just playing a pirate. He is a close talker. I don't know if you noticed that in the movie, but whenever he's, like, talking to someone, he is right in their face.
All in their face.
Which I'm like, I hope he had mints or something, because, like, every scene, he is close. And I'm sure that's because, like, oh, you're a villain and you're intimidating.
Yeah.
But it became to the point where I noticed it all the time. And I'm like, this is kind of weird.
Yeah.
And he plays it okay, I would say, for what he's given to work with. He looks scary.
I feel like he's like the typical Johnny Depp. Like, he brings the weirdness of a character to a character.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I feel like, I don't know, because not a lot of the... I don't know, maybe some of the other films I've seen him in where he's not as close to people, and maybe that's what he was just bringing to the character, which was really awkward, because how close he was, it's just like, boy, get out my face.
Right. Exactly. I feel like he does that a little bit in, like, Pirates of the Caribbean, but I feel like he's just like, oh, I'm a villain. I'm just gonna do this. And I don't know.
I didn't understand the white eye thing. Because in Harry Potter, and they show the glimpse of Grindelwald, he doesn't have a white eye when he's old.
He looks normal.
Yeah. He's just an old man, normal old man.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, where does the white eye come from?
Yeah, I agree. I feel like that was definitely a Johnny Depp costume choice.
Right. Let's make me look even weirder.
Exactly. Classic Johnny Depp.
Right.
Also, another thing I wanted to mention with the whole Fantastic Beasts series is I really feel like J.K. Rowling is a great novel writer. And because she has done work besides Harry Potter, she's in other successful novels and series.
Yes.
But the thing is, they're also series.
Yeah.
And when you write a book, as anyone is always going to say, they're always going to be like, oh, the book is better than the movie.
Of course.
Which is usually the case. But you just have more information in a book that you can't put into a movie. And Fantastic Beasts, specifically the second one, is not based on a book.
Yeah.
So I really feel like you're getting all of these complicated storylines that J.K. Rowling is known for, but she's not given the space to flesh them out.
Right, exactly.
So we're left with this film where there's a lot of like, wait, so that guy was doing that thing, that was his motivation.
Right.
Who is that guy? What's that guy's name? I know it's going to be a weird name, like everything in Harry Potter, but I don't remember what it is or what he does. And there's just a lot of that. Like, things happen quickly, and there are a lot of characters that I'm like, you appeared for like a second and now I'm supposed to remember you.
Right. And what's the purpose? Because at least in Harry Potter, like she had time to, tie it all together at the end. Yeah. And even if they were just mentioned briefly, it's like, oh, that's why they were there.
Right.
And then in these ones, it's like you said, she's a novelist. She's not a screenwriter or like a movie writer, like for a movie or a film.
Right.
And that's what I mentioned that a little bit earlier when we were talking about how she was approached to write these.
Right.
And I was like, oh, I don't think that's a good idea because she's great at writing books, but it's a different story. Definitely different when you have to write a screenplay
because
for
a screenplay is like all dialogue.
Yeah.
And I feel like there were points where I was like, the dialogue is weak here.
Yeah.
Like, because it's like, I feel like it's better when she's describing, you know, like you're watching it in a movie, you're watching her whole creation, but it's not as intricate as I feel like it could be.
There were even points in this one where you would expect there to be more dialogue, and there was literally nothing said.
Right. Yes.
And I seen those in some instances with Dumbledore and with Grindelwald when I was like, that you're not going to say anything else, you're just done talking. Yeah. So there was a lot of those.
Right. Or just moments when I'm like, that is a really weak line.
Yeah.
Or like, I feel like there were a few awkward moments where it was almost like they cut it and then they cut back to a character's reaction, which was totally different from the way that they started.
Right.
Like there was one scene, I want to say it's the Minister of Magic or someone from the Ministry comes to talk to Dumbledore, and there's a shot where you see him talking to Dumbledore, and the camera goes to Dumbledore, and then you go back to the other guy, and his like reaction is way different from his tone of when he started. He like is yelling, but he said it calmly before, and you're like, that's weird.
Yeah.
And there were just some moments I was like, that's a strange, like, that interaction was a little awkward, you know? Like, it wasn't as long as I feel like J.K. Rowling likes. Or in, like, the books, I feel like you're going into people's thoughts. Yeah. And there's more, like, narration, you know?
Right. I feel like it would have been better if she was able to tell her story to someone who's trained or knows how to be a screenplay writer.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like she can spill out her whole story. Like this is how it's going to be. And then they can put it on a film. Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
But
I agree. Yeah. Not that I'm saying her ideas are bad. I just think some of the execution is a little wobbly. And I don't know if she's been signed on to be the sole screenwriter for the next ones. I would imagine, because I don't think this is doing as well in the box office domestically as Warner Bros. Wants. So I have a feeling they might pair someone else with her for the next one.
Which they should.
Which I think they should. Yeah. And I don't think she should be insulted by that.
Right.
You know?
No. Yeah. She's like, it's like you said, she's a great novelist. But I also feel like, you know, the execution, I don't want to really all just put it on, because the characters had what they had to work with. Right. And so it's like, we're just paid to play these parts kind of thing. So it's like, oh, it's hard, but I really like Harry Potter. So we'll watch it.
I agree. And I feel like that's what's bringing people to the box office is Harry Potter fans.
Yeah.
But I have read some people saying that even if you're a Harry Potter fan, this movie will kind of fall flat. Yeah. Because they're saying the Harry Potter fandom will get you through the first Fantastic Beasts. Yeah. But maybe not the second one.
Right. We'll talk about the first one in a little bit.
Yeah. And so, as I was saying, I feel like she is a good novelist, but also this particular Fantastic Beasts is not a movie that I feel like can stand alone. Yeah. Like, the other Harry Potters all have continuing threads that take them through to the next one, but I feel like they can stand alone as a story that generally has like a conflict and a resolution. Yeah. And I feel like I don't feel that in this film. No, this is way more open.
Oh yeah. It has to be tied with something.
Yeah, it has to be. Yeah. And that's why I feel like, that's why I'm saying there's definitely going to be ones after this, because they're just like, has to be. Right. Like, it can't end this way.
No, of course not. And it's like you said in the Harry Potters, even if you jumped in like part 3, Prisoner of Azkaban, you're like, okay, so he's fighting his, godfather, whatever. He just broke out of prison. But then you're like, okay, wait, now I want to know the backstory, but you can still follow it through this one. And the first one, you can do that without having to watch Fantastic Beasts Part 2, but if you watched Part 2, you would be so lost. You couldn't even follow it.
It can't stand alone.
No, it's just like you said.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I agree. I feel like it can't stand alone. And I know that, like, especially, like, this would almost be good in TV. Yeah. This would be great for TV.
Yeah, it would be a great series.
Exactly. Yeah. You could do more serialized stuff. Yeah. And I feel like that'd be great. Yeah. They could do a podcast.
Right.
Like, I feel like it would do well in a long format. Right. Not so much the condensed movie. Right. And yeah, I don't know. I like all of the actors. Yeah. I feel like they do pretty well. I mean, Johnny Depp's Johnny Depp. Yeah. I mean, they knew what they were getting when they signed him on.
Right, exactly.
But overall, I would say it's a pretty good film. I just think, I feel like it's entertaining. Yeah. But I also sometimes wonder, like, I had read all the Harry Potters before I saw the movie, and so I knew everything that was going on. I wonder if this would be different if I had read some book before I saw this movie. Right. I probably would be less confused. Yeah. And I wonder if other people who had never read the books watch the Harry Potter films and are like, what's going on? And then leave dissatisfied.
That's how I am.
They don't know.
I never
read the books.
Yeah, but I do know that there's like a manual, I guess, of the Fantastic Beasts. It was just like a short, small.
Oh yeah, like the thing.
Yeah,
the
like how she
textbook
wrote.
copy that she wrote. Yeah,
but it's so open in this one. It's like you don't even know where it's gonna go. It could go any direction. Whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like you shouldn't have to read a book before you see the movie to get it.
Yeah.
So maybe this is just a test of her, when she takes something and turns it into a movie.
Right.
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just going to say like, oh, Harry Potter is too complicated. You need to read it before you watch it, which I don't think so.
No.
I just feel like this film is a little too convoluted. It's complicated.
Yeah.
And I don't have a guide.
Yeah.
And that would be helpful.
Right.
Or if we just slowed it down a bit, you're going to make at least 2 more movies.
Right, exactly.
You have time.
I think that would be the answer, though, is just slowing it down, because I feel like it's just so rushed. Because they're like, okay, we can make Fantastic Beasts on the little, pamphlet book. And I thought, when we talk about the first one, that one was great, but to tie it all, to continue it with this is like, you need more.
Right.
There's not much you're going off of right now.
Right.
Now it's just like, where there's no ideas. I don't understand.
Yeah. I feel like I could use a guide.
Yes.
So we're going to take another break, and then we're going to come back and keep talking about Fantastic Beasts.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to the Movie Podcast. We are continuing to talk about the Fantastic Beasts series, which currently has 2 films out. I wanted to clarify before we move on that I feel like what Arianne and I were trying to say before the break is that in the original Harry Potter films, based off of the books 1 through 7, you don't necessarily need to read the books to understand them.
Right.
I think it could be a little helpful, but you don't really need it. Whereas the Fantastic Beasts series doesn't really have a book.
Right.
It has kind of like the textbook that J.K. Rowling sort of made up and elaborated on. But there's not really a book for this series.
Right. There's no storyline.
There's no previous storyline.
Right.
And I feel like it needs it. And I feel like when I say it needs it and it's not there, that to me makes it feel like this movie, particularly the second one, The Crimes of Grindelwald, is not as strong as it could be.
Right.
Because I shouldn't need a guide.
Exactly. And the guide for the book for the Fantastic Beasts is really just like, this is the beast, this is what it's called, this is what it can do, kind of thing.
Right.
So
it's like
not
a textbook.
Really, yeah, it's not really a solid foundation of
like
really
a novel.
Good, a good story to build something on.
Right.
That's hard.
Right. And I agree. And I think that just makes it difficult sometimes to get into this film. We're going to move on and talk about the first Fantastic Beasts, which is Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. This was made in 2016. It was again directed by David Yates and screenplay again by J.K. Rowling. This was J.K. Rowling's first screenplay that she had written. It again has Johnny Depp as Grindelwald. Again, Eddie Redmayne as Newt Scamander, Zoe Kravitz as Lita Lestrange, Ezra Miller as Credence Barebone. You also have Colin Farrell as Graves, who is a character. Well, I'm not going to give that away. You'll find out if you watch it.
Yeah.
And it also has Catherine Watterson as Tina and Alison Sodol as Queenie. And I found this movie a bit better in the fact that it could stand alone.
Yeah.
A bit more than the second Fantastic Beasts. And I'd like to say about the first one and the second one, it's very charming. Like, the CGI is very well done.
Right.
Because it's Fantastic Beasts. So they have all these fantastic beasts.
Exactly.
All these magical creatures. And it is very charming. The CGI is, like, adorable and scary and, like, powerful and really well done.
I think so, too.
And I think that's, like, its strength.
Right.
For sure, in its production. Also, I want to say, I believe, so this film premiered in New York City 2016, and then it was released worldwide later on. It came out in 3D, IMAX, 4K laser, whatever that means. And it received pretty positive reviews from critics and audiences. Also, it was nominated for 2 Academy Awards, and it won for Best Costume Design, which became the first of any of the Harry Potter movies to win an Academy Award.
Wow.
Which I did not know. But I remember Harry Potter was nominated for a lot, specifically like costume, but I guess this was the first one to win.
Nice.
And so this one takes place in 1926 with Newt Scamander, and he has just completed his global trip to find and document just an array of magical creatures, hence Fantastic Beasts.
Yes.
He arrives in New York, and he really would have just come and gone, no incident, but then he comes across a no-mage, or a muggle, as you may know from Harry Potter, named Jacob. And basically, things go awry. Newt brings a case with him that he keeps all of his magical creatures in. He has this in the first and the second one.
Yeah.
And that gets, like, mixed up with Jacob's case. And there's an escape of beasts and a lot of just potential trouble for the magic world and the non-magic, the no-mage, or the muggle world in New York City.
Which I feel like that's why it's so strong by itself.
Yes.
Is because of the whole creatures, and you get to learn about them.
Yes,
and
I agree.
Yeah, I think the first one was so much better than the second one.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you have a lot of the same actors in both, and you have the same great CGI.
Yeah.
But again, I feel like there are some dialogue parts, some written dialogue that could be better, as same as the second one.
True, yeah.
But the story itself can stand alone more, and it's very charming.
It is.
I really enjoyed it. And this one is way higher rated by critics and audiences. Obviously, the second film, The Crimes of Grindelwald, hasn't been out for that long. Yeah. You know, we're not really sure, but so far I think it's not going to be as well received as the first one. And you really get to know the characters more.
Right.
And I would say you have to see the first Fantastic Beasts before you see the second one.
Yeah, you won't get it.
You won't get it. And I don't really think you'll enjoy it that much.
Yeah, you won't. You'll be so lost.
Right. Because the second one offers almost no background to characters.
Zero, yeah.
And the first one, they establish characters pretty well. And I think you really need that to go into the second.
Even the second one, even when they just mention Dumbledore and that's it. You don't even you're still kind of left hanging. You're like, okay,
True.
He has the situation with Grindelwald and Dumbledore's there at Hogwarts, but then that's it.
Right.
So you get zero backstory, which in Fantastic Beasts, the first one, I love how the story, it was, okay, so I tried to watch this 3 times when it first came out. The first time, I had a really bad quality bootleg, so that's why I was like, I can't even watch this. It's horrible. But then the second time I watched it and I was like, I really don't get it yet. Like, I'm lost. What's going on? And then the third time I was like, okay, I better focus so I can get it. But then after you understand and that it's just about the Fantastic Beasts, it really starts to come alive for you because you get to see, like, not only in Harry Potter where you see like the hippogriff or what other
like a boggart or a werewolf.
Exactly, those, like, you see all these other creatures that would have lived in that world that could have been in like the Forbidden Forest or something. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I really liked that aspect of it, and they're different abilities. Even that was pretty cool. So what bothered me in this one was Newt Scamander. Like, he doesn't ever look people in the eye. Like, he's always looking down in a diagonal way, like almost like he's trying to veer away from them, but he's looking at the sidewalk, but he's listening. And it's like, where are your eyes, man? Look at me. Like, it bothered me so much.
You're so right. That was like me and the Johnny Depp close talking.
Yeah.
That's true. You're right. Now I can't think that. I can't unsee it now. Yeah. I wonder if because I've seen Eddie Redmayne in like The Danish Girl, and I feel like maybe he did it in that film too. I don't know. I didn't notice it as much.
I have to go watch it.
Yeah. He's also very charming in this film. Yeah. He really makes the first film.
He does. He does a really good job.
Right. I think he and the actor who plays Jacob, which unfortunately I'm not sure who that is, but he did a great job too. Yeah. I think both of them, their portrayals of their characters really make the film.
Yeah, they did. And to just be like random one-off, like, you know, we kind of have to know each other right now, so we're gonna be friends. I like their whole chemistry with that. They kind of made it work. Yeah, so I really liked that.
Right. And I think this Fantastic Beasts film is really a good companion to the other Harry Potter films. Yeah, I think even though this is going the way of the Star Wars, where you just always have prequels, and random things squeezed in between, which I'm a little afraid is going to happen to the Harry Potter series, this is really a good companion to the Harry Potter series because of, like you mentioned, all of the beasts that you learn about. Yeah. And the CGI is, you know, it just keeps getting better and better.
Yeah, it does. It looks amazing.
Right.
It looks amazing.
Also, there is one creature that I particularly wanted to talk about, which is called an Obscurus. Yes. And I thought this was really interesting. As like a slight Harry Potter nerd, I enjoyed learning about this because an Obscurus is like, it's like a parasite that will develop in magically gifted children if they suppress their magic abilities. And that becomes an interesting part of this film and the second one. The first one more than the second one, I would say. But I loved getting into like the little nitty gritty of the Harry Potter world and learning things like what an Obscurus is and seeing all these great creatures was really enjoyable.
Yeah, I hear you there. Yeah, I want to know where they're taking the Obscurus situation in part 2 because Johnny Depp's character Grindelwald, it seems like he knows what he can do. But then they kind of just leave it alone. It's like, you want it for something, but then what? And then even I wanted to mention Graves' character, who, you know what I mean? I feel like if he was in the second one, because he did a good job in the first one.
I liked him a lot.
Yeah, exactly. And he gives you a lot of, like, even though he's not in it a lot of the time, when he is in it, he provides a lot of information.
Right, Colin Farrell. Yeah. I feel like he definitely has, like, the star power in this film a little bit. Where you just want to watch him. Right.
And he's the one who's going to give you the information. Yes. So if you watch when he's there, it's like, okay, I get it. I know you're doing something for a purpose. And then it kind of leads you there. And I feel like if they would have brought him into the second one, it would have helped.
Yeah, I agree. Overall, I would say they are enjoyable films. Definitely watch Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them before you watch the second one. Right. Also, I forgot to mention, if you're watching the second film and you're really into Harry Potter, there are going to be some strange plot holes that, if you maybe are not familiar with the Wizarding world, you may not notice. But the second one, as a complaint, I would say as a Harry Potter fan, I'm like, well, why can they do that, but they can't do that or something? You're like, why did that fail that time when it shouldn't? Or you learn things about other characters and you're like, you were never mentioned in the other films. That does not make any sense. Yeah. And
there's no link.
There is no link. There's no evidence of you. And that does lead to a lot of fan theories, which I enjoyed reading today. Just about certain characters, which you will find out if you watch the book and then decide to Google it. Yeah. And that is interesting, but I don't know. Leaves me like, kind of like how, again, I feel like this is compared to Star Wars, where the most recent Star Wars film, you're like, that character, that doesn't work there. Yeah. Similar to this experience in Harry Potter, I'm like, I don't know. That's a whole. I don't think that should be that way.
Right. And I hope J.K. Rowling is able to tie it all in at the end, because she is really good at that. And with all the different angles you can take, and when me and my sister, I do have to mention this, and if anybody can make this happen, I would love it forever. But because Dumbledore is in Hogwarts, it would be amazing to get the backstories of Slytherin house, like the Slytherin guy. What's his name? Salazar Slytherin. Oh. And a backstory for Rowena Ravenclaw.
Oh, you got to read the books.
Well,
that's in the books.
Right, but I want them to make the movie for it because I don't want to read the books.
I'm sure Warner Bros. Will go for that money and will make you a movie to explain all of that.
Please do.
Or like some sort of animated TV show or something. Right. I'm sure they will.
Do a movie. I don't want to sit through a TV show. That's annoying.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. Yeah. I'm sure they will.
But yeah, I agree with Heidi. The second one, you have to watch the first one first.
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you all so much for listening, and I hope you will turn in to our next GSMC movie podcast episode.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Movie Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.